Hello everyone, it's that time again, time for another This is Commentary with Ozzy Rose. Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Ozzy Rose. I hope you've had a great day on this rainy Friday. But anyways, let's get on with it. The topic for this commentary is better. That's right, better. I was talking with some friends a while ago about, people that go around and think they're better than you. Yeah. Now, I was not one of them. I've never went around ever in my life and thought that I was better than anybody. Because at the end of the day, we all sin, for one thing. That's me included. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. But this is what I thought about individuals that thought that they were better than someone. It's just my take, but I think they're the lowest of the low. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some that are more fortunate than some of us are, like, say, financial. Some people are wealthy, which means that they're more fortunate than we are. There's some that I'm more fortunate than others. Some don't get the luxury of getting to sleep in a tent at night. Some sleep on the streets. So that's where you can say I'm more fortunate. I get plenty to eat. So there's some that don't. But that don't make me any better than them, and it don't. And it never will. But don't believe me, I've had a few people tell me before that they were better than me. Right over there in Paragould, going to the same mission that I went to get free meals, when I lived over there. And you know what I told them? I said, you're right. Y'all three are better than me. They said, Gladys said, yeah, we know it, but how do you know that we're better than you? I said, you're a better class of shit. And I said, the last time I remember my mom telling me, you hang around shit long enough, you're going to smell like it. I said, so I ain't coming back here. I said, I got food at my tent anyways. So when I told them that, their mouths dropped. They didn't have nothing to say. But I could have said this. I could have said, well, can you strut like me? Because I was doing the strutting thing then. Their answer would have been no. I would have said, all right then, I'm more fortunate than you. I'm not better than you. But I'm more fortunate than you because I can strut and I stay in great physical shape. But I use dope just like you do. And I drink just like you do. So nobody's any better than anybody here. That's what I could have said. But I didn't. I just told them, you're right. You're a better class of shit. And the last time my mother told me, you hang around shit long enough, you'll smell like it. So I ain't coming around here anymore because I don't want to smell like shit. So, But I mean, I'm just giving you examples, and y'all know me in these commentary segments. I mainly just give you examples regarding me, because I can't speak for all of you out there, and I cannot, and nor would I try to do that. That's not me, But like I said, there's a lot of people that are less fortunate than others. I'm less fortunate than a lot of other people, but like I am more fortunate than some. But that don't make me any better, and it don't make any of you out there any better either. When you start thinking you're better than somebody, you are the lowest of the low. That's the way I look at it. Now, being said, you don't have to stay the lowest of the low. You can turn around and be a good person and help those that are more or less fortunate than you. Now I'll give you some more examples here. When I had wealth, I gave most of it away, and I did, to the ones that were more or less fortunate than me. And that's what I did, and, but there's a lot of people out there, everybody, I don't think all of you out there or think you're better than everybody. I don't think that about everybody, and I don't. Most people don't. But there's a few out there here and there that think they are. Ye without sin shall cast the first stone. Like I said, we all sin at the end of the day. Nobody's perfect except the Lord above. That's me included, and that's why I ask him every night to forgive me of my sins, because I know I've sinned, and that's what that means in the Bible. Ye without sin shall cast the first stone. When you think you're just Mr. High and Mighty or Miss High and Mighty and you're better than others, then and you don't sin, then you cast that first stone, So I'll give you some more examples. I'm not going to name who it was, but it's been a while back. It's been over a year ago. Some women I knew said that they just, they were heavy pot smokers, but I didn't think nothing about it. But they said, well, I just can't understand women hooked on meth that, give their kids of. I said, I do. I know what addiction does. I said, I'm not excusing it, but I said, when you're hooked on a drug and that urge hits you, you'll do anything for it. I said, what makes your pot addiction superior to women's meth addiction, I said, addiction's addiction. You know, she had nothing to say. The other two didn't either. You know, and it don't. That's what I'm saying. I know the topic is better, but that's what I'm trying to give you is examples of your pot addiction is not superior to someone's meth addiction. You're not better than anybody else. Addiction is addiction. You know, like my addiction was to 100 proof schnapps and to meth. But those two wasn't superior over anybody. I met some alcoholics that went to AA meetings. Now, not a lot of them, but there were some that thought that their alcoholism was superior to my drug addiction. And like I said, addiction is addiction. It don't matter what you're addicted to. It ain't better than someone else's, you know, and it's not. Alcohol is the oldest drug known to man. If you don't believe me, you look that up, and it is, you know. So when an alcoholic thinks that their addiction is superior to someone's drug addiction, it's not. You know, addiction is addiction, and it's wrong. Wrong is wrong, you know. And I say that about myself. My addiction was wrong, and it was. Back when I drank and I done my meth, did I think I was better than someone else's addictions? No, I did not, and I never will. That's just me, you know. Now, the reason why I named this topic there is because me and Miss Jamie Ann and her husband Timothy, we was talking about this one guy we both mutually know. I won't mention his name or what the business is he works for that I represented, but that's why I don't represent them anymore, because he didn't want to have nothing else to do with me because he thought he was better, and he was wrong. He wasn't better, but I wasn't better than him either, you know. So that's what I'm saying. That's what gave me the idea for this commentary segment, you know. But when people start thinking that they're better than me, this is what I usually tell them. Can you strut? And the answer is going to be no. And I'm going to say, all right then. But just because I can strut does not make me any better than you. Ye without sin shall cast the first stone is what I would tell them. You're not without sin, just like I'm not. You know. So that's why I say, we was talking about this one guy we knew, and I said, that's why I don't go by there anymore. I said it wasn't the other employees, it was him. When he got what he wanted, he didn't want to have nothing else to do with it. You know. But that's on him. You know. I was too good to go by there anymore. It wasn't that I was better than them. I like the employees. I like him still. But I'm too good. If you think you're better than me, then I'm not going to represent you, and I'm not going to come by your place anymore. Because you're not better. You're worse. You know. You might be a little financially better than me. You know, but that's the only way. You're sinning just like I do. I'm not no better than anybody. I never have thought that, folks. And I never will. You know, we're supposed to love one another like brothers and sisters. And we are. Because, you know, when we leave this world, if we're right with him, when we descend into heaven, we're going to be little kids when we get up there. That's why we call one another brother and sister in the Christian faith. And in the Christian faith, if you're a true Christian, you don't think you're no better than anybody. You know, I will say that. I don't get that very often from people. Don't get me wrong. I don't get that very often from people, or certain people, I guess I should say, that think they're better than me. You know. But I would tell them, if they thought they were, I'd say, can you strut? And if they say the answer is no, I would still tell them, I'm not better than you because I can. I'm just more fortunate than you because I can do it. Just like some people are more fortunate than me that have better finances. Nothing wrong with that. Whatsoever. You know, does it make them better? It makes them financially better, but it doesn't make them superior to me or into anybody else, you know. But, you know, that's how my folks raised me too. Don't ever think that you're better than anybody, because when you get that way, then that means you think you're too big for your britches, and we'll whoop your ass. And I've always remembered that, and I will always stay humbled that way too. So, you know, please don't ever think you're better than anybody, because that's wrong when you think you're better. When we're all really the same. We're all flesh and bone, we all sin. And we're all children under the eyes of the Lord. That's going to be about a wrap for this commentary segment, and the topic is better. I hope we have a better day tomorrow, so I can go straight. So long, everybody.